Now, we've got documents from Congress, and we've got reports, and we've got admissions hiding in plain view coming up in the next hour that I had no idea would dovetail into what just broke from the Congressional Judiciary Committee that's investigating all this, the Democrats. And then you look at what just came out of the judiciary to the White House to Jerome Corsi, where Obamacare stole $189 billion that we know of so far out of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac of private investment, and then just told them their investment failed when people invested in the government housing market deal thinking it'd be a good investment like government bonds to get money back. They just stole it from investors and looted it to prop up Obamacare. That's a bunch of insurance companies and banks robbing everything. I mean, look.
Got more coverage from what Jerome, and that was amazing investigation that Corsi did. And it was outright criminal act. They were taking preferred stock. They were supposed to get 10% off of these Fannie and Freddie mortgages. Instead, they took all of it, swept it in the general fund, then moved it into Obamacare because Obamacare.
That's a bail-in. That's how they do them here.
Exactly.
You know, in Greece or wherever, they just grab it out of your bank account, or Cyprus. But let's expand. This is what we're starting to learn. This is what the White House is leaking out to folks. So I guess Trump is fighting back. The problem is it's not even getting out there in the conservative media. Then let's expand. Then we learn that Obama's moved into a bunker. He wants to overthrow Trump. He's the leaker. All that's illegal. They hide it in everybody's, face. Just, again, plain view. Nothing's done. And then we learn the latest. DOJ, Obama's DOJ funneled billions to liberal activist groups illegally. And here is Fox News contributor, former governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee, breaking it down. Let's start from the beginning, because he says they need to go to jail. Absolutely. Here it is.
Somebody ought to go to prison for this. I mean, this is worse than a mafia shakedown, because at least if the mafia shakes you down for protection, your store doesn't burn down. But this is a case where the liberals have played Robin Hood. They've stolen from the government, the taxpayers, and they've given it to their pals. It's really outrageous. And I think that part of it that is so frustrating, imagine, for example, if under a Republican Department of Justice, the Department of Justice had allocated money to the National Right to Life, or if they'd allocated it to the NRA.
Oh.
Can you imagine
Illegal.
how that would have gone over with the Democrats? I don't think very
First
well.
Amendment. Congress can't be involved.
Senator
That's right.
Hit pause for a moment and then back it up 10 seconds. Think about that. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or freedom of the press, or the right to peacefully assemble or redress of grievances. Government cannot get involved in funding the speech it wants to hear. That means religious or political or anything else. Okay, it's all protected, and the government doesn't have jurisdiction. And so instead, they're illegally funding anti-American globalist groups. This is unbelievable. And what's unbelievable is we just keep learning more and more and more and more. Meanwhile, the big scandal, we'll go into this now. I want to finish the clip, or part of it, and we're going to get to this, is Sessions as a senator, as the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee, publicly met. It was on his record on the Senate site that he had a meeting twice with the Russian ambassador. I went and looked it up. Schumer had many more last year than that. It's on there. It turns out this guy likes the Democrats, sat with them in the inauguration. It turns out he's buddies with Pelosi. It turns out he's buddies with everybody. It turns out Obama had 20-plus meetings with him last year as well. But Sessions has 2, and he's a Russian agent and lied when he was asked specifically. Franken read it, obviously by a lawyer. Frank is not that smart. Knowing Sessions is a lawyer, we're told that in the press that surrogates on the campaign met with Russians about the campaign. He said, no, I'm a surrogate. I'm one of the top surrogates. Nobody met about the campaign with Russians. And they go, oh, you lied. You met with a Russian. Not in the campaign capacity. You ask a lawyer. You ask the head of the DOJ.
That's right.
At that time being confirmed, and he gives you the perfect lawyer answer that a judge or a detective wants. He gave you the absolute boom spot truth that in the campaign, in that function, no meeting with the Russians. That they turned that total truth into a lie, while Hillary and her people are all on the Russian and communist Chinese payroll. And I had former congressman, ranking member on the House, or vice head of the Armed Services and Homeland Security Committee, telling you he saw the secret documents, and Hillary's basically a Russian agent and a Chinese agent, and he's getting ready to bring it out. Now, he hadn't come back on yet. He kind of blew up on air. He stomped out during the break, like just angry. and said, I'm going public, Alex. Well, okay, Kurt Weldon, we need you. Because I guarantee they're threatening him, going, don't you release that classified hearings. They had classified hearings, and they decided it was too bad for the country to come out that Hillary was a Chinese communist agent. She was paid off by the Russians, but they weren't running her. I've had former high-level and current CIA people say, yes, Alex, you're right. Hillary is a Chinese agent. And it's come out, though. It was in the news. They're Chinese communist agents. Forget the Russians. Okay, the Russians have a lot of great science. They're great people. They got a lot of corruption, though. They have the GDP of Italy, folks. The Russians aren't the threat. The Chinese communists are out of control, and they've bought off our government. And this whole thing about Trump is to restore America. Do you understand that the intelligence agencies, or branches of them that are patriots, are the ones that rebelled against this alliance with China and the communists and the Wahhabist Islamists and said, that's too far. We're getting behind the people. And Trump was put in by the voters and the patriots in our government, not the Russians. Trump was put in by Alex Jones and the listeners of this broadcast and Matt Drudge. He was not put in by the Russians. Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Alex, when they did this to Flynn, I said, what they have just done is a self-inflicted wound while they're swimming in water with sharks. And they're going to come after them again. And that's precisely what they're doing, trying to twist this into something that it wasn't. As you point out, he said, yeah, I'm in Washington. There's a Russian ambassador in Washington. I meet with him a couple of times. We didn't talk about the campaign. And I think the same thing is true of Flynn. When this was, he's talking to him.
Same thing. It's all admitted. No, once he stood down, they go, oh, of course it was no big deal.
Yeah. And then they talk about, oh, the Logan Act. The Logan Act. You're trying to undermine Obama's foreign policy. You know who's trying to undermine
That's meeting privately for business in a non-governmental capacity.
Right. But the Logan Act is trying to change the foreign policy, working against the official foreign policy. McCain is not the Secretary of State. McCain is not the president. We just had him go at the end of February.
That's right. He doesn't have the authority on his own mission, not sanctioned by Congress, to have a secret mission to meet with al-Nusra, ISIS, and al-Qaeda, promising that they're going to, hold on, we're going to get you aid, block the American and Russian operations, sanctioned by the president of Russia and the U.S. together to destroy this al-Qaeda force. That's the name, the real name. This little traitor runs over there, runs back. They put photos up of him with the leaders. Here, let's show TV viewers. Tell folks.
That's right here.
So forget him meeting with the radical Islamists that are fighting our military. That's okay. That's okay. Go ahead and show it. TV viewers.
Going back to when this was back in 2013, he tweeted out pictures of himself there with them. We said, look, these people are not moderate rebels. Now, whether or not these are al-Qaeda
they're the al-Nusra people, that's the same group.
The fact is, afterwards, he came back and talked about Rand Paul. He says, has Rand Paul ever been to Syria? Has he ever met with ISIS? Has he ever met with any of these people? No, no, no. In other words, I have. And what he's saying is that he went and met with the Free Syrian Army. He said, there's about 70% who are still Free Syrian Army. Well, other people who defense consultants say, no, that was only about 30% at the time. That's a generous measure. But look, we know that they were giving weapons to ISIS. It's been revealed over and over again. Now, whether or not he was working against Obama's policy, you can say maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was secretly putting that policy in.
No, McCain was behind it. That was admitted.
But what we have now...
McCain was there behind the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And what we have now, I'm saying in the most charitable interpretation of this,
but we already know.
Have now, yeah, we know that he was working to create ISIS. What he's doing now, he just went February 28th, another secret trip. Now, this is clearly, there's no way by any stretch of the imagination that you could say
he's there to work against U.S. military forces.
Precisely.
The word is he's the leaker, and this is what people are looking into. You better watch out, McCain.
Oh, yeah.
He's the leaker on the last target so that our people would get caught to embarrass Trump, just like the CIA in the Bay of Pigs.
That's right. So he goes there, they get weapons. We know he's meeting with ISIS back in 2014. Snopes on the left say,
McCain is meeting with our enemies right now, working against President Trump.
Exactly. What he did on the 28th, he goes there, and as ABC points out, this is a secret trip that he made and then talked about it afterwards, and he is criticizing Trump's policy towards this at the same time, and then right after he leaves, Turkey cuts off Syria's water supply. Look, you have to understand that regime change is not the same as defeating ISIS. And he's still criticizing Trump's policy.
Look,
so he's working against Trump's policy.
Absolutely.
Why is this okay for him to meet with ISIS and undermine Trump? And it's not okay for Jeff Sessions to talk to somebody and...
Sure, because we keep having real debates with MSM like they care, like they're rational, like they're listening. They're just there to spew lies, disinformation, and garbage, and basically try to brainwash the American people into going along with this. But I don't see it working. But I got to tell you, they're very bold. We can show people drudgereport.com and Infowars.com to show Sergei Kislyak, who's met with Hillary, who's met with Obama scores of times, who's met with Schumer, who's met with them all, to now say it's bad that the Republicans meet with them, and then there's Schumer with Vladimir Putin. I mean, they really think we're stupid to now say that the Trump government can't ever talk to the Russians. I mean, to see this weird hyper-McCarthyism, because real McCarthyism wasn't what they called McCarthyism. This is true authoritarian, blacklisting, shutting down the news, calling people foreign agents, a foreign power. A few minutes on that, then we're going to Owen Schroyer.
Well, you know, Alex, you're absolutely right. The real threat is China. And we all know that this is a smokescreen. We all know that this is not really...
And you know about China. You've been to China. Your daughter's adopted from China. You're an engineer that works with Chinese.
You know, they're even talking now about changing the one-child policy because they've created this massive demographic time bomb. They have so many young men who are coming of age who don't even have wives because they've had this one-child policy. And so China has got a time bomb. They need a war. And they need to have something to distract against this. They're very adventurous. You see this in the South China Sea. They are ramping up their military spending.
Well, you know where they're sending their men? They're setting up giant colonies in Africa. They're marrying African women, and they're just everywhere.
Yeah.
I talk to special forces people all the time that are in Africa. You can see it in the news, too, and it's like everywhere you go, there's Chinese men with their African wives, and it's, I mean, a huge colonization. I mean, millions of Chinese men, military.
Yeah.
Are going in, running farms, mining. They are taking over Africa. Africa's being absorbed by China as its industrial base and its food base.
And as its mineral resource base. Africa is so heavily involved with minerals that they need to understand that that is a strategic move by China to get these precious metals that they can't get in large quantity elsewhere. So,
but how dare Trump try to come in here and try to restore our republic and actually get Americans to run America and have a few things to help our workers and try to stop all the social engineering to make us disintegrate. We've known Obama was trying to balkanize America and trying to start a race war. Now we know $3 billion was given by the Justice Department illegally to do it. That's now on Infowars.com. Thank you, David Knight.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming in. I wanted to get him in. And now until 8 after next hour, Owen Schroyer will be with us. And then we're going to have Darren McBreen join us in studio to talk about a huge story that's not getting any attention that ties into all this. It turns out, I'm going to give you a little tidbit right now. Mainstream newspapers and mainstream Hollywood firms are the main group, and I'd always suspected this, putting out the truly fake news websites that put out incredible disinformation against myself, against Ron Paul, against President Trump, and others over the years. And then they even point at themselves and say, look at how horrible this fake news is, saying this person was dead or this or that happened. And get this, they're also making money off of it. So it's worse than we even knew. They literally run the fake news sites. They then use the worst examples, have people from the fake news sites that they fund go on NPR and say, I'm a fake news guy, like Alex Jones, and then speak for me. Man, this is such a deceptive, manipulative thing. We've got to stop this. We've got to do something about this. These people have got to be stood up against. I mean, they've been caught lying over the years, so they're just quadrupling down. Now, speaking of dehumanization, I've got several articles I want to get to here coming up at the start of the next segment that really ties into what Owen's about to hit on. And we've got the article that we're going to be showing on screen so we can scroll through that for TV viewers. But they're not just degenerating the family. They're not just saying there's 100 new genders, and if you're male or female, that's bad because that hurts people that are the other genders. So the original gender is hurtful, so that can't exist. They're now having body augmentation or changes that's going past people getting all these face surgeries and things until they look like the cat lady. It's now saying, oh, I'm an alien. I'm not even human. I'm a celebrity. It's turning yourself into a carnival show barker, a carnival show freak show, so that's how you, quote, make a living, is not being part of the human system, so humans look at you and think there's something wrong with you. And what the system's doing is taking mental illness in many cases and also making it fashionable and cool. This is another psychological virus they admit that they've injected into society to confuse everyone. Then they have the corporate media hold it up as if it's something beautiful and powerful to further accelerate the downfall of civilization. But humans can organize together, recognize the disease and the filth, the poison grapes, the poison berries, and teach others not to eat of them and go away from the poison fruit. We're right back in the Garden of Eden. We had the knowledge of good. We weren't dumb. It's the knowledge of evil is the virus of mental illness. Owen Schroyer, break down this latest story.
Well, the story that I think you're referencing is the guy who turned himself into a genderless alien, and he had a bunch of surgery to make himself look like, I guess, an alien. He's got weird facial construction surgery and weird body surgery. And you know, Alex, I got a lot of flack hosting the 4th hour of this show earlier this week because I was, quote unquote, fat shaming a woman. But no, what I was actually upset about is exactly what you just alluded to. Look, if somebody wants to go out and mutilate their body and transform into whatever it is that they think that it is they want to be, and that's going to make them happy, and there's a doctor out there that's going to do that surgery, then you know what? It's going to happen, and as far as I can tell, they have the right to do that. My issue is exactly what you just said. It's the corporate media, it's the Yahoos, the Googles, the Facebooks.
They're force-feeding this to our kids. Every new Disney movie comes out, says, you know, if boys and boys are kissing, girls and girls are kissing, it's a force feeding.
So it's like instead of covering this story and being like, well, this is a little weird. Is this really what we want people doing? Is this healthy? Why is this person doing it? They're like, wow, look at this. It's original. It's cool. It's hip. And the kids will be like, wow, that's cool. That's hip. I want to be a genderless alien. Or the story on Yahoo that I was referring to, this girl puts on a bunch of weight and Yahoo promotes her saying, look at her. She's not ashamed of being fat. She's standing up for the fact that she put up weight. She's proud of it.
Or this woman had the state paid for her to have bleach dumped in her eyes. She identified as being a blind woman. Or this, you know, 60-year-old guy identifies as a 4-year-old girl.
You can't even script this stuff, Alex. And it's like you said earlier on the show, it's everything that you've talked about over the last 2 decades, all coming in at one time. And it's like, how do you even possibly cover all of this stuff? I've got all of this news on my desk showing the double standard of all of these Russian claims that Russia is influencing Trump's presidency or Russia's influencing Sessions. But then, of course, you got to fight the battle that Barack Obama is moving billions of dollars throughout the government. You've got to fight the fact that they're pushing alien genderless people on the youth, putting it on the front page of these news publications. So it's like, what? How do you even pick your battle? They're coming at us from all angles.
And meanwhile, they're saying, don't show images in campus of a normal gender woman or man because that's hurtful.
Or National Geographic, a woman doesn't exist.
I mean, this is on, folks. This is a full assault on humanity by the globalists. Zuckerberg, Schmidt, all of them are your enemies.
Talk show host is Alex Jones. He's a conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Jones is the wildly popular conspiracy theorist.
Radio talk show host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
Deeply, I think, racist.
I just got called racist by MSNBC.
I don't want that man to have a gun.
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
The Alex Jones Show. Watch the free stream live at Infowars.com/show.